What is up everyone, and welcome back to another review. Today we're going to be looking at the Judge Battle Machine. This is a third-party kit by Zero Gravity, and we're going to see how well it stands up to Bandai standards. So let's check it out. So before we get to talking about the kit itself, we're going to go over the unboxing experience. This is what the box looks like. It has awesome artwork of the judge right here. On the sides, we do get a few poses, some information about the different weapons and accessories that come with this kit, and on this side we do get a few more poses. Most of the runners are empty right now, but when you do first open it up, you're greeted with tons of runners, as well as this box. This box is labeled frame, and that's because this kit actually comes with a fully die-cast metal frame. They're packaged in this little clear container, as well as a piece for the scythe that we'll go over later. Moving on to the build process for the kit, it was actually pretty amazing. The very first thing I noticed is that the plastic is really good quality. The last third-party kit I made was the Supernova Mugen Liger, and that kit felt pretty cheap. It was mostly ABS plastic, so everything felt a little bit pliable and bendy. This kit does minimize on that, and pretty much all of the armor is the same as Bandai's armor plastic. However, the finish on this plastic is really nice. You might be able to tell by the reflections of the light, but it has a really nice matte finish. It feels almost soft to the touch, but very sturdy at the same time. The second thing you'll notice when building this kit is that each piece feels like it's pretty much a resin kit conversion. And that's because that's pretty much what this kit is. It's a conversion of the Forbidden Gundam. Now, as far as I know, there isn't a master grade Forbidden Gundam that has been released to us anyways. So amazingly, the folks at Zero Gravity pretty much built a conversion kit from the ground up. And as you can see from just this part right here, the detail is absolutely amazing. There are several panel lines all over, but it's not overwhelming by any means. And pretty much out of the box, it's gonna have all the details you'll want. Other than repainting the kit, I can't imagine what else you could do with customizing it, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but if you did plan on getting it to customize it even further, it's gonna be pretty tough for you to find an area to improve it. Another thing you'll notice when building it is some of the parts do still have a little bit of flash or mold lines left over on them. It's not really in any obvious places on the kit, it's more so when you're looking up close at different small parts. For example, on this shoulder piece there is some excess plastic that does overhang the edge of the part, and I'll throw a picture up for you so you can get a closer look at it. But yeah, those specific defects are few and far between. Next, the clear plastic. So there's only one clear plastic that comes with the kit, and it's this translucent teal that you can see on the head, part of the chest, in the arms, on the stand, as well as with the effect parts. One thing I did not like about this kit is that this plastic is pretty tough to cut. Not that it's gonna break your nippers or anything, but it's pretty hard to get a nice clean cut without stress marks. So definitely something where sanding or using a glass file would be immensely helpful. But other than that, the rest of the plastic is great. I used my razor on the entire build and everything cut through pretty smoothly. No issues there. And the last thing you'll notice while building the kit is that some of the parts do fit together very tightly. It would probably be a challenge to paint this after building it just because the parts are fit so tightly together. With that being said, the only stress marks I came across because of the tight-fitting parts were on the back of the backpack. You might be able to see it very lightly there, but on the bottom of the fin there are some stress marks. That's because there's a peg that goes into the fin, and that's pretty much the only spot on the entire kit that I remember seeing stress marks appear because of the tight fit. And after building the kit and assembling everything, here are my first impressions. 1, the kit is very heavy. A lot of it is due to the die-cast metal frame, and some of it is due to the huge backpack. I mean, just listen to me putting it on the table. I thought the die-cast frame was an interesting choice. It makes it more of a high-resolution model as opposed to a regular Gunpla kit. But then after feeling how heavy the backpack was, it made a lot of sense. And even with the weight of the frame, this kit still struggles to balance with the backpack on. So that's another major point that I kind of dislike about this kit. You'll need to use the stand that comes with it. This is a proprietary stand that plugs into the back of the waist. There's normally a white armor piece that covers this spot right here, and we can take the action base and slot it in right there, and that's how we mount it to the stand. Now, something I didn't really notice until actually posing the kit is that a lot of the joints are pretty tight. but some of them are still a little bit loose. So this makes it a little bit inconsistent when posing, and by far the weakest joints I've experienced so far are in the ankles, mostly just the forward and back motion. Side to side, it's pretty stiff actually. Sometimes it's even a little too hard to turn it, and definitely the waist. That is a little to be expected with how heavy the backpack is. I just wish there was an easier way to reinforce it. Another good thing I noticed after fully assembling it is that the color separation on this kit is really great. The choice of colors is very nice. A lot of them are pretty neutral, but they still pop out. As opposed to like a harsh orangey yellow, we have it toned down just a little bit. The red is a nice darker shade than we usually see on a Gunpla kit, and the indigo fits with it perfectly, very nicely muted, and very reminiscent of the Death Scythe. The grays are a very typical gray. The whites are the slightest shade of off-white. Part of me actually feels like this is more of a slightly brown gray, and this white is more of a slightly blue gray, but honestly it's probably not that noticeable of a difference. My favorite part by far are the areas where the clear blue pieces pop out. Obviously we have it on the head, but we also have it right here next to the neck, here in the middle of the chest. We have these blasters on the wrists, a little bit popping out in the knee. We have it on top of the backpack, and on the tips of these little wings right here, and on the tips of these big wings too. Now, if you're not into the idea of these clear blue parts, specifically in the vents, the instructions do let you choose between using the clear blue parts or just regular gray parts. But honestly, why wouldn't you go with the clear blue parts? Next up, this kit definitely has a lot of points of articulation, and I'm probably gonna miss some as we get to them, but I'm only gonna go over the more gimmicky points of articulation. These shoulder flaps here move up and down, not that much, does so in the front and the back. Let me also take off the backpack for this portion. These wrists right here can rotate, though they are kind of keen to coming loose when you're handling them. Here is our full knee bend. This flap on the back of the leg goes up and down, as well as the thruster inside of it. On the mini backpack, we have 3 separate thrusters. This top one goes way up and down, and these bottom 2 kind of have a little bit of motion, but honestly, they don't make that much of a difference. Those are the more interesting points on the body itself, so let's take a look at the backpack. This is where a lot of the gimmicks are. Starting off, it does flip up and down right here on the center of the body. Taking a look at the wing, we can rotate it in this direction, and we can rotate it in this direction. We can also lift it up like this. On each wing, there's 2 kind of sub-wings. These can flip out like this, as well as rotate. There is another part of the wing that we can flip up like this and rotate. On this part, we have some flaps. These reveal some vents that on the box art, it looks like the judge uses them to hover. This thruster in here can move a little bit back and forth. The top of the wing is very interesting. So we get some articulation this way, and if you look at it from this angle, it actually looks more like a dragon, where these vents are the eyes. This actually opens up to something that actually has teeth. And then these parts open up with even more teeth. Very reminiscent of Kyrios in my opinion. And on the side where the backpack connects to the body, we do have this plate that is able to slide up and down. However, for the most part, I leave it in the up position. That's where it looks more appropriate. Oh yeah, also for the backpack connectors, these can rotate up and down at this axis, and there's also a joint on each of the arms that rotates up and down. So to connect it, you just line up these connectors to these slots on the backpack. It's not too difficult, but it can take a little bit of trial and error. There we go. Now the next thing I'm going to talk about is a con of the kit, and that is that some of the parts do tend to fall off pretty often. However, it is mostly in only 2 areas. One being the wrist. Usually when I take out a hand and I try to swap in another one, I grab onto this wrist piece and end up pulling it off. That's because this part stays onto the wrist more like a cuff as opposed to its own connection. The next area that gives me trouble is right here on the backpack. These parts, at the slightest angle, they come apart like that. This specific part actually came off about 3 to 4 times while reviewing this, so I'm pretty close to just gluing it down and making it permanent. But another good thing about this kit is that it does come with a lot of extra parts. And I mean a lot of extra parts. Just going through the runners, we can see there's duplicates for a lot of the parts in this kit. These are duplicates for the weapons. These are duplicate weapon handles. These are the inside of the skirt armor. These are the alternate parts I was telling you about you can use instead of the clear blue pieces. We have whole pieces of armor that go on the backpack. We have whole pieces of frame that go on the backpack. Here is part of the crotch armor as well as part of the abdomen. Here are more parts that go on the backpack. And we get a whole unused duplicate of effects parts. And that's the perfect segue to talk about the weapons for the kit. This is the most basic weapon of the kit, the scythe. As I said before, it does have a metal handle, which is pretty nice because the plastic, after all is said and done, does get a little bit heavy, and you don't want it sagging around when you're posing it. The kit also comes with a half moon dagger right here, with enough parts to make a second half moon dagger. This actually slots into the back of the scythe like this. The fit isn't that good, it's actually pretty loose when you have it on there, but it'll for sure stay in place and it won't fall out. Lastly, we have this stabby knife thing. This actually goes on top of the scythe and turns it into a spear. Now going over the effects parts, the first one will be for the half moon dagger. We get this nice long effect part, almost too long. What you have to do is actually slot this part in at the bottom first, then up here at the top it sort of snaps into place. And to cover up these patches right here, we have additional clear pieces, and that's what it looks like all said and done. Now according to the box, the correct orientation for the judge to hold this weapon is like this. I've seen a lot of people displaying it in this direction. It's kind of personal preference, but I personally prefer it like this. Not only is it a half moon dagger, but in this orientation, it has more of a karambit feel with the blade coming down from the bottom edge. And the second effect part we get is for the pointy dagger. This one is very lackluster. It's actually two parts that come together and it does that. Yep, nothing more. Honestly, it doesn't even snap into place, and it falls off just like that. So I'm not really sure what they were thinking with this effect part. I mean, I guess that works. It just seems very lazy if you ask me. Some people have also displayed the weapons with the effect parts on it like this, but I think this just looks a little too tacky for my taste. Alongside the weapons, we do also get additional fixed position hands. Aside from the closed grip hands, we get open palm hands, closed grip hands for holding things, angled closed grip hands for holding things, and angled closed grip hands for holding things with the thumb on top and the wrist at an angle. I think these should be pretty self-explanatory, but pretty much there's a hand for any position you would need them to be in. One strange thing about these hands is that the thumb is actually on a peg, somewhat of a peg. There's this rectangle joint where you kind of just slide it in like that, and it's pretty easy to get the thumbs for the different hands mixed up, so keep that in mind. Along with extra parts, we also get this thing. I don't even know what it is. I don't know where it goes. I don't know why it's here. Here in the manual, it tells us to put Q4 onto P1, which is what I did, and then it just doesn't talk about it ever again. So if someone knows where this part goes, please let me know, because I couldn't find it on the kit at all. Oh yeah, another additional thing we get are water slide decals. These are pretty decent decals, saying judge on them. All of them in gray though, so we don't get anything that's red indicating warning or anything like that, but I'm sure there's some good third-party decals out there already. And as we get towards the end of the review, of course I've made a cinematic for this build, so let's go ahead and check it out. So my final thoughts on this kit are that it's pretty good. I think it's definitely worth the price if you're not getting it for an absurdly high scalper price. But in my opinion, it's ultimately a set and forget kit. I wouldn't want to pose this very often just because of how fragile it is and how tight the joints are. It does get a little bit annoying, but when you do get it in a good pose, it looks absolutely stunning. Going back to the price, I think it is a very fair price. I bought mine for about $160, $170 maybe, which is not too much higher than a high resolution kit that comes with a die-cast metal frame as well. But yeah, overall this kit was really fun to put together. It looks amazing, and I even accidentally knocked it over one time, and the only part that broke was part of the action base. But that was easily put back together with some cement. But thank you for watching all the way through. I hope I was able to answer most of your questions about the Judge. And if you have any more questions, feel free to ask them down below in the comments. Or you can reach out to me on Instagram or in our Discord as well, where you'll find plenty of builders just as excited as I am to talk about different Gunpla kits. Also, special thank you to our first Patreon for the channel, G-Self-Verka-Wen? That's their name in Discord. They just told me to use that for their name for the channel when I do this shout out. But yeah, if you didn't know, I did set up a Patreon to help fund the channel. It is by no means necessary and completely optional, but if you wanted to give $1, $3, or even $5 a month to supporting the channel and also funding cool ideas and projects, well then you are more than welcome to join. And that is it, everyone, so thank you so much once again. But in the meantime, find this kit for a fair price and start building.